Live on Facebook and YouTube. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Come on in. It's a little earlier than expected. Okay, are we live? Yes, we are. You are about to hear my puppy, too. All right, we're going to go live on Facebook. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of The Remarkable Shift. All right, so I think we are good. You will hear my dog in the background until I get me a studio. All right. Make sure we're not muted anywhere. All right. Let's see if I got some more footage here. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of The Remarkable Shift, where we are talking about from dreaming to doing, how to finally execute your big vision. So thank you all so much for joining me. Whether you are watching live or on the replay, go ahead and comment where you are from today. And so this is going to be like a working session. I'm gonna try not to go super fast, but I get excited when I share some amazing things because, again, I want you all to have this remarkable shift where you live a life poured out above ground before all of your brilliance and genius goes underground with you. So we are going to discuss how to create a clear action plan to turn your ambition into reality. How many of you are super ambitious? You have all of these things you want to accomplish, but they're still up there in possibilities land, right? They're not coming to fruition. They're not becoming your reality. So we're going to have a hard truth conversation while we talk about that today. So, how you dream determines how your vision will unfold. And I know you probably don't want to hear that, but that is true. And that's why it is so important for you to dream even bigger. And then at times, it's going to require you to dream differently. And so, everyone has a dream. Every single person, when God created you, He created all of us with something inside of us. Whether you believe in God or not, He still created you. But it is up to you to say, tap into that and say, well, what else can I offer the world while I'm here? And it's up to you to make the most out of your dreams. And so we have to ask ourselves, well, if everyone has a dream, then why isn't everything being accomplished? And that's because there's two camps, dreamers, and then those who dream and do, right? So it's that little part that and you also do. So no more of just dreaming. January is over, or the beginning of the year, or whether you're starting a new season and you're catching this later on, every day can be a January 1st. But we have to get out of the clouds. We've done the vision boards, we've done the vision planning, we've done all of that. And if you haven't, you can still go do it, but make sure that you go fast forward and get into execution. So we're going to talk about how to bridge that gap between just being a dreamer and a doer. And so I'm going to help you to understand why big visions often feel out of reach. And I'm going to show you how execution is a skill that you can actually master. You have to build that muscle just like anything else. And trust and believe you've already done so, because you wouldn't have gotten where you are right now if you've never executed on something. Everything that you've accomplished was already a dream. Now, you may not have focus on it as much like a dream like we do certain things now, because you went to college, you got your degree, you got your job, you climbed the corporate ladder, you got that promotion, you have that family, you built that house, you've done something, but it was kind of like, well, that's what I was expected to do. But now you have this new dream and it feels like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to do it the same way you did the other ones before? But now you're being more intentional about it. So you've heard this statistic before, and it's everywhere. You can Google it. On the one hand, it says only 8% of people accomplish their dreams, but on the other side, 92% of people never achieve their goals. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. We're not talking for me. Now, if you want to come into my circle and you want to be remarkable, I'm not talking about small goals here. I'm talking about massive dreams that you want to accomplish, the ones that are deep down inside in the dark corner that you keep a little bit to the left, that you never want to share with other people because it's like, oh my gosh, I don't think people may look at me crazy, or I don't even think I can do it. Those are the ones I am after, right? So those are the ones I want you to tap into. So I think it's an even smaller percentage, honestly, because I believe that, a lot of us can have a goal, I want a better house, I want a better car, I want to uplevel my friend group, or I want to release some weight. It's like some things like that. And forgive me if that's major to you, but the people that I am talking to, these are the ones who like dreams are really, really massive. But we know how to accomplish those things. And I think a lot of us stay safe. We're like, oh, my dream is to write a book. Well, that's great and everything. And of course, I've written books, but let's be honest, it doesn't take a lot to write a book. Now, do you want to publish a series? Do you want to get a major contract? Do you want to be on somebody's bestsellers list? Do you have a certain number that you want to sell? Now, that is a big dream for you to accomplish. So I believe a lot of people accomplish goals, but I don't think a lot of people, I think that 8% might be even smaller, to like 5 or 3% of people actually achieve the dreams that are in the secret place, the ones that they keep hidden. And I'm going to ask you a series of questions as we go through this show. So I hope you got your pencil and paper, because I'm going to give you another framework. So the last time we talked about peak, and go watch the previous video for that, or the previous episode for that. And today we're going to talk about drive. But before I get into drive, I want to give you the example of Sara Blakely. Now, if you haven't heard of her, she was the founder of Spanx, and is the undergarment for women, to suck everything up in place. And even people who may not look like they need to be sucked up, trust and believe they are wearing 2 and 3 of them at a time. So she's the billionaire. She either sold her company for $1 billion or generated $1 billion. Either way, she's associated with B for a billion. And I'm pretty sure when she started trying to figure out how can I make, shapewear better for myself and then for other women, I don't want to say she probably had the goal of building a $1 billion company, but I know she had the vision of changing women's lives so they can show up more confident in whatever they are wearing. And she probably said she wanted to touch as many women as possible. So not just having some cute shapewear for herself, but how can she literally change how women feel about themselves and empower them? But she didn't just say, all right, that's it, we're going to go get all of these women and do that. She started one step at a time. And I know it's like, well, of course that's her, or you can insert anybody else, but you yourself have accomplished something major, and you did it one step at a time. So let's not think that people that we see outside who have outside, wherever we see them outside of ourselves or outside of our norm, let's not think that they are, special snowflakes, right? Everything starts with one step at a time, but what kept her going was her vision and breaking things down and doing something every day. And that's how we're going to get into drive. So the acronym is drive. If you are here live, put down some of your dreams, some of your comments, some things that may be stopping you, and then we can address that as we go throughout the show. So the acronym DRIVE, again, I did not come up with this, but I think it is beneficial. Sometimes when you are looking for frameworks and methods, or ways of thinking to uplevel your thinking, you may need to put it in a different framework to reframe it for yourself, because you don't want anything in your subconscious to start tripping you up on things. So if the peak from last episode did not resonate with you, then maybe drive will resonate with you. Or in our next episode where I have another framework, maybe that would work with you. If you come work directly with me, I do have my own framework. And like I said, it's a framework, but it is still customizable. So I want you to get into the habit of understanding how frameworks can be customizable for you to get your results. All right, so the DRIVE method, D stands for define, R stands for reverse engineer, I stands for integrate, V stands for validate, and E stands for execute. So DRIVE. define, reverse engineer, integrate, validate, and execute. And we're going to break those down even further. So the first one is define your vision. If you have not done so, we've been talking about this, and I've talked about this a lot in previous videos on my YouTube channel. You have to define your vision. You have to get crystal clear on what your vision is. This is a little bit of, I'm going to say this, don't let clarity become an idol. Don't always seek for, I have to know exactly what it is. When I say get clear on what you want, that means, you do have this vision. You do need to sit down with yourself and go through some reflection questions and be real, like, what do I actually want? And then ask yourself that multiple times. And then you will realize you will get to the answer. Some of you already know what the answer is because it is reoccurring. You get snippets of it. You daydream about it. You may dream about it at night. Everything that you hear and see is tied to that, or you find yourself being drawn in different areas and directions. That is tied to your vision. So the more specific you can be, the better. And I know some of you are afraid to be like, well, I don't want to write it down specifically because it may not come true. Well, that's where you have to do some inner work, right? There have been times where you've had a vision, going to college, getting a job, getting married or starting a family or whatever it is. There's something you've already accomplished where you are crystal clear on what you want to do. And you started working towards that. But I understand that you may have had a lot of setbacks in life, as you're moving forward or going up to your next level. But don't let that stop you. Start again. You can dream differently, you can think differently. So get crystal clear, write one paragraph, call it your vision manifesto if you want to get fancy, and describe your ideal future vividly as if it has already happened. You've heard this over and over and over. And the reason why you're going to keep hearing it, whether it's from me or from someone else, is because you have not done it yet. You have to be clear and write it out in as much detail as possible. You can go listen to any person who accomplished what they accomplished, and they were like, yeah, I was really clear about what I wanted. Now, everyone didn't write a paragraph of vision manifesto, but some people like constantly rehearsed it in their minds or constantly saw it. For some of us, and you're going to hear me use this example again, if it was going to college, a lot of us didn't really write paragraph. Well, I don't know, we did have to practice these essays a lot, but you were surrounded, right? About going to college. It was very clear on what you need to do, the atmosphere, you went to all the different things college related. And even though you didn't write a vision manifesto, it was rehearsed in your mind subconsciously and you were moving towards that. So that is kind of the same feeling you need when you're thinking about a new vision for yourself. So that was deep. Define your vision and get clarity, but be careful not to let clarity be an idol. When you can write it out, like, where there's a house or a car or a relationship or your health or something in your business or the impact you want to have, like there are about 15 to 18 areas of your life for you to choose from. Then you'll know when it keeps coming up over and over. So that's one key or one kind of clue on what direction you are supposed to go and how to define that. Now, here's the thing. You're not just writing down a bunch of things that you would like to see happen. I would challenge you to write down, how does it feel to you? How does success feel to you? Not what it looks like. So I was naming like a lot of tangible or materialistic things, but honestly, that's not success. What it's the feeling that those things could bring to you that you can access now. And I know that sounds woo-woo, but it's so true that the reason why you want something, like whether it's money, car, a house, a spouse, partner, job, whatever it is, the reason why you want the tangible thing is because of a feeling, right? So move over the tangible and access that feeling. Then when you have that feeling, describe how that feeling is for you. Define, like, be vivid about that. Go into the thesaurus and find new words, right? And then talk about that, live in that space. And that's how you start tapping into your vision and getting clarity, because now it's in your body. You're now embodying what you want to accomplish. And again, I know it sounds woo woo, but look back over some of the things that you've already accomplished. You probably talked about it so much. You probably rehearsed it in your mind so many times. You probably, put yourself in the environment, so many times, and then you became that person to have that thing, whether it's a promotion, all the things. So you're doing the same thing now with your new level vision. All right. So if you have any questions or comments about that, let me know down below. And if I don't answer your questions on the live, I will come back in the comments, or you can message me below. All right, so R stands for reverse engineer your steps. Plan. Oh my gosh, plan. I don't know why when I work with clients, sometimes they're like, well, I don't really want to plan this out. Or they get so used to being good at something that they just wing it. And we got to get to a point, if we're going to become remarkable in our lives and take these shifts to go to another level, we cannot wing anything anymore. We have to be strategic. We have to plan. And what is this saying? Failing to plan is planning to fail, whatever that saying is. You have to plan. I remember even as an educator, we had a whole time planning period where it was time for us. I mean, we did other things, but I remember when I first started, I took that planning period seriously. Like, all right, what am I doing for the day, or what am I going to do for the next day? How am I going to, focus on my classes, or even right before my classes came in, what am I really talking to them about? I looked at my lesson plan. Do I need to edit anything? Do I need to solve through any problems? Because I wanted to make sure that my students were learning, and then that we're going to get through all of the objectives that they need to get through. Why don't we do that in our real lives as it relates to our vision or our goals or our dreams? You have to plan, break these things break these things down into manageable pieces. The reason why a lot of you are not breaking things down is because you're not clear on the vision, and you're probably like, how am I ever going to get this done? That is where you're messing up. First, you just need to break it down. And if you can break down anything into manageable parts that you can do. Just like when I taught mathematics, students were like, oh my gosh, this word problem, or this equation, oh my gosh. And it's like, if we start breaking things down, if you ever looked at a mathematics problem, it starts off long, and then slowly but surely it starts coming down until you get the final answer. And that's because you are breaking things down step by step. Or if you're building, a house or watching a house, even though it doesn't start big, it starts from the bottom. No one looks at a house and say, how in the world we're going to ever do this? They have a plan, and they start with the foundation, and then they do all the insides and then the walls. It's like step by step. When it was time for you to go move up into your career, if you are currently vice president or CEO of something, when you first started out, you didn't say, oh my gosh, I can't work here because I have a vision of being a CEO, but I'm never going to be able to do it. No, you looked at the rule book, right? The policy and procedures, or whatever they told you, said these are the things you need to do to move forward. When I was a college professor, was tenure and promotion. These are all the things that I needed to do if I wanted to reach another rank. So that you have done this before. Going to college, I told you, I'm going to keep using that example. You knew you were going to get a degree, but you didn't just show up on college on day one of college and they say, here's your degree, or you didn't turn around and run and say, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to finish this in 4 years. Oh my gosh, it's huge. No, you went semester by semester, class by class, year by year. Same rules apply. But a lot of us who become successful in different areas, when it's time to shift into another vision, it's like we freak out and forget those things, because it's like, well, I'm successful. And I'm going to tell you the truth. You're like, I'm successful. Why should I have to start from ground zero? You're only starting from ground zero in this place, but you get to use all of your other experiences, right? So you have to break it down. So one framework, or one suggestion, is this framework, the 3x3 framework. So break your goal into three phases, and then each phase you break down into 3 action steps. And if you want to get more support with that, comment the word drive down below, and we can have a conversation of just how to set it up. For some of you, you just need just a jump start and say, this is what I want to do. I don't even know where to get started. Let that not be your reason for not taking the remarkable shift to move forward. So the other thing about reverse engineering is look at all the things that could possibly block you or go wrong. And I think that's where a lot of people mess up. Now, in college or in the workplace, it's kind of easy to navigate that, because there are a lot of people that have gone before us. They can tell us the pitfalls. But sometimes when you are the trailblazer, you have to sit there and think, or you may have to go outside. Like somebody they may not be doing that exact thing you're doing, but they're doing something similar, and so you may have to learn from them of what to look out for. And one way as I was going through my notes, what came to my mind, I don't know if you saw it, was the movie Enough with Jennifer Lopez. And she played like the wife who was kind of tricked into marrying the guy who was super successful, but it was just all a game to him, right? It ended up being, he ended up abusing her. She's running, and there's a scene towards the end where she's preparing to come face to face with him and was like, look, I'm tired of running. So she's working with a trainer or a coach or a strategist or a mentor. So she's working with someone and he's training her, how to fight and defend herself. And then there's a part where he goes, well, now you need to prepare for the impossible or the inevitable, where she gets knocked down. And she was like, well, how am I going to get knocked down? I am training. I am quick. I am the bomb.com. He is not going to touch me. Right. But he was like, no, you still need to prepare for that. So he makes her lie down and he says, now hold on to my voice. Now, this is what's going to happen. He's going to stand over you. He's going to think he's been victorious, and then he's going to try to kick you. But because he's going to do that, I'm going to tell you what to prepare for. So you don't know what she's going to do until the end when it actually happens. I said all that to say is you can apply the same logic to your vision. Whatever it is, if it's writing a book, releasing weight, or gaining weight, or changing, building, I don't know, buying commercial property, whatever it is, you can find out the pitfalls and then prepare yourself mentally with the worst case scenario. And I know we talk about, be positive, be optimistic, especially those of us who are believers. God got our back. And absolutely. But he also puts trials in our path to make us stronger and to, one, to rely on him, of course, and then to build up our character and our strength and our resilience. So if you are learning about the pitfalls ahead of time, the worst case scenario, and you can allow yourself to feel that emotion right where it is, even if it hasn't already happened, and you realize that you are safe and you did not die, then you won't fall to pieces if it happens. Now, it doesn't mean that if you think about it, it's going to come. I used to think like that. Well, I don't want to think about the worst case scenario because that means I'm just attracting that into my atmosphere. That's not always the case. Like if you're constantly thinking about negativity and like worrying so much, like, okay, I think this is going to happen. Some bad is going to happen, then bad is going to happen. But allowing yourself to examine the worst case scenario and to come up with a plan about that, or allowing your body to feel what it needs to feel, that's a way of reverse engineering and planning. All right. So if you have any comments or thoughts about that, again, let me know down below. Comment Drive. If you want to talk through that, you can book a call with me and we can move forward on discussing that. Also, this one, you can get this assessment. I'm going to come up with another assessment. If you want me to do I have it. If you want the life assessment, because right now, because I'm working towards, doing something incredible on February 25th that I will start telling you all about, and it all relates to what we're doing now. If you want something as it relates to life, because right now I have something about building your authority and your skill set. But if you want something more towards life, let me know. I already have it, but I haven't released it yet. So if you're interested, still comment Drive below, and then I'll just clarify what you actually want. But just comment down below and I will reach out to you to see if that is something that you would be interested in. All right, so number 3, the I in Drive, is to integrate into your daily life. So being consistent. I know you're like, oh my gosh, if I hear that one more time, again, if you keep hearing it, that means you're not being consistent. Look at everything that you've accomplished in your life so far. That means you were consistent about doing something. And then look at everything you have not accomplished that you wanted to. That means inconsistency showed up. And I'm not talking about, oh, life just happened. There are things that we can do to put in place to still ensure that we are being consistent and taking that daily action towards the dreams that's gonna move our lives forward. So you have to turn your execution into daily habits, but not a one-time event and not a two-time event. How many of you, if it's working out, well, I worked out 3 times, what, this month? Or I worked out 3 times this week. Okay, what about next week and the week after that? Or I want to write a book. I wrote, these pages. I wrote, I sat down and I wrote today. Well, what about tomorrow or the next day? Did you do it yesterday? And anything moving forward. And you can apply that to any area of your life, any goal, any dream. You can find out how to be consistent with that. And if you have questions about that, comment drive down below for us to have a discussion. Now, some people say take 20 minutes to do something towards your dreams and goals every day. Now, this is what I'm going to give you a broad spectrum because it depends on what it is. And since I don't know exactly what it is, I can't say only do 20 minutes. 20 minutes can serve you well depending on what it is. But then 𝐓𝐨𝐲𝐬𝐳 takes the other extreme and says 4 hours. So I'll tell you one example he gave, like if you want to connect with more people and you want to get seen and you don't have any money, then you spend 4 hours a day connecting with people, whether it's social media or out in real life or doing advertising or things like that. Some people say you only need to connect with people 20 to 30 minutes. It's up to you. But the point is you need to have a block of time every single day. If you want to take off the weekends, that's up to you. But you need to have a block of time, majority of the time, that you do something towards your goals every day. Now, you may only need to focus on maybe like 1 to 3. You have to figure it out. But what's important to you, you have to block out time. I learned to do priority focus time. You can do a miracle hour. You can do a dream block, whatever fancy name you want to name it. You have to do something every single day, preferably in the morning. But if you're not able to do that, then you need to have it either in the middle of the day or at the end of the day. Somewhere throughout your day, you need to prioritize. This is what I said I want to accomplish. I am going to work on it for this amount of time, whether that's 20 minutes, 4 hours. I think I haven't seen anything past 4 hours, and I've kind of looked through the gamut of things. But the smallest amount of time I've seen where you to really focus on completing a task has been 20 minutes. And then the max I've seen has been 4 hours. So it's up to you. Now, as you're doing that, one way to make sure you're doing it is to share it in public and say, I'm going to do this. So I want the people to hold me accountable. If I say it out loud, then I have to be accountable. The pros and cons to that, you have to be careful and use wisdom and discernment. You don't want to be out here sharing everything and then, you got the naysayers around you. My advice would be to be around a group, a mentorship, a mastermind, peer support, where you can say those things out loud and your ambition is welcome and you are being held accountable. People really can't hold you accountable. That's really something only you can do. But if you're in a place that has built in like accountability, you being a high level performer or, an industry titan, a game changer, a visionary, you being that person, then you're not going to want to be the only one not, doing what you said you're going to do. So that just being around that atmosphere, just like if you were in school, you're like, I don't want to be the last one to finish my paper. I don't want to be, the only one not doing this, or I don't want to be the only friend group, the one in my group not going to college or not doing this, that, and the other, right? Yes, you run your own race, but there's something about that social kind of pressure in a good way. When I used to run and do run races like 5, 10, 15K races, I was like, oh, I don't want to be last, right? So just being in the race just kept me moving forward because it was like, oh no, y'all are not going to get me. So that's what I mean. Now you pick and choose what you're sharing out, but I do think it's important that you do share certain things with certain groups, because if you're in isolation, then it could still feel like lonely, or you're not going to feel like you're making progress because you don't have those outside people looking at celebrating you for what you cannot celebrate, that you can't see is worth celebrating. And also people who are calling you to your higher self, a higher standard, and you're like, oh, I did so well, and they're like, no, you did not, because you said you're going to do this. Like, how about we step it up a notch, right? So that is making sure that you integrate this into your daily life and being consistent. The next one is V for validate your progress, getting feedback. That goes similar to what being in a group or being in like an accountability type group is, or getting feedback with a coach, mentor, strategist, advisor, because you want to make sure that you're still going on the right path. Now you tune into your star player. Those of us who are believers, we have Holy Spirit. But God also put wise counsel around us so that two or three can touch and agree, right? So you want to make sure that one, if you're doing something tangible, that you can see the result. But if you're doing something that may take a longer time and you want to still see that you're on track, you want to get that feedback to make sure that you are still going in the right direction. And sometimes it's going to take someone to be critical, not for you to be in your feelings, but to say, hey, you may need to shift, not change, but maybe you need to shift and go this way, or here's a better way. So you do need feedback, and you do need to validate your progress and looking at, even if I move 1% towards my goal, what whatever I'm doing, has it moved me at least 1% towards my goal? Sometimes, we want these massive jumps, we want these quantum leaps, but sometimes we're just not going to see it. But we still need to make sure we find a way to see if the needle is moving. And the only way to do that is to evaluate and get feedback. And then one way to get it is from somebody who may not know everything that you're doing, and then they can come in with a fresh perspective. So, but you still have to be careful with that, right? Because it can go left, like you don't even know what I'm doing. So how can you say? But let's say if you're writing something and you want to get the message across, just like, okay, here's an example. When I was doing my dissertation, and even though we wrote it for other scholars, one way to make sure we can explain it for the defense was get somebody outside of our field. And so mine was mathematics and leadership. So I would have to get somebody outside of, who had no idea what mathematics and leadership was, to read through my process and read through what I was saying, and to see if they can understand what I was saying back to them in layman's terms, right? So if they understood the process and steps and could tell me what I was talking about, then I knew I was on the right track. It didn't matter what the jargon was. Like, they didn't have to know mathematics or leadership or the intersection of those. But if they understood the overall conceptual framework, I was on the right track. So that's what I mean. So when you're getting feedback, everyone, they may not know the nitty gritty of what you're doing, but they should understand the big picture, right? All right. So that was V. Now we're into E for execute relentlessly, taking action relentlessly over and over. Now, you may have heard the phrase take imperfect action. I personally do not like that phrase, because subconsciously my mind is like, oh, imperfect. I don't want to be flawed, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to make sure I get it all right. The way I had to overcome that and work through that was to change the word, reframe that. Intellectually, I know what imperfect action means, like do it anyway, right? But subconsciously, it's like, no, we're not going to show up like that, right? And it could be my program, it could be the way that I've been, trained and conditioned. I'm all cool with that, but I'm not going to let that be an excuse because I was like, I had to figure this out. So I use the word iterative action, right? So iterative. So iterative. That means to iterate, over and over. So the definition of iterative action is the process of repeating a series of steps to improve a product, process, or idea. It's the circular or circular. I can't say the word. Is that process that involves creating, testing, and revising until the desired outcome is achieved. And the reason why I like that word and it resonates with me, and hopefully it resonates with you, is because now I'm taking, it doesn't matter what steps that I'm going to take, because then I get to revise and refresh it. Just like when I was writing articles for national publications, they will always send, well, not always, but if it was kind of on the right track, it would be a revise and resubmit. And at first you're like, oh, they didn't like what I did. But then when you reframe it, say, oh no, they want me to get better. So they're giving me another opportunity. And sometimes if they like what you're saying, but you're not quite there yet, they will allow you to do multiple revisions and resubmissions versus a total reject. So I had to apply that into my life. And like, okay, I can do this. So that applies to me and it works well with me. Hold on. Hey, I'm on the video. Hey, I'm doing the video. I'm doing the video. Okay, I'll be finished. Okay, bye. All right. So see live. So I wanted to make sure that it resonates with me so I don't get stuck into not doing something. So take that on as like an experiment. What can I do? It may not be fully right the first time, but I will only know if I get it out there and get that feedback. So you see how all of this goes together. So whatever your vision is, and I would love to talk with you to make sure that you're on the right track and to work through your mental uh, capacity to understand that it's not so much like, oh, I'm imperfect, I'm doing flaw work and it's not going to be right. It's not that. Is let me take this to the market, whatever the market is, so that I can get the feedback and then have another opportunity to get it polished how I want it to achieve my results. So I don't have a problem with the word perfect. I know some people do. Perfect for me means like it gets done, right? And then if you think of iterative action, you keep taking those revisions until it's finally complete, but you're taking action and you're being relentless about it, right? Sometimes it may not take a lot of iterations for you to do it, but you won't know unless you act. So whatever it is, if you're here watching live, you can put down the comment and I can give you an example, or you can ask me in the comments like, well, what would this look like to for iterative action? And then I can give you my thoughts down in the comments below. And so again, if you're like, I'm still not convinced, think of it as an experiment. Everything is an experiment. When you went to college, it was an experiment. You just have more times to go to classes and get it right. When you were working in your corporate job or whatever job you were doing, every day you showed up, you didn't get everything right. So every time you came back in, you had another opportunity to do something right. If you've ever written a book, then if you had a good publisher or if you had friends, like for me, I had a friend group, like they would read and it was like, nah, V, that's not right. Well, we don't know what you're saying, right? But it didn't mean that I sucked. It was just I just did an experiment, right? And uh I have another book that I want to write, but now I know a better approach to it because I've already written two books, right? So whatever it is, think of it like that. My experiment, my beta is a program that you want to do, a framework, a talk, whatever it is, think of it as an experiment and say, oh yeah, I'm just going to go out there. You still show up with excellence and do the best job possible, but you get yourself off the hook of one, oh, I'm just gonna just show up imperfectly, and your subconscious doesn't resonate with that, and then you let yourself off the hook that if you have a typo, it's not the end of the world. All right. So I'm challenging you to commit to do 72 hours that you're going to find one task and you're just going to do it for the next 3 days that's aligned to your vision. I'm not asking you for 90 days. I'm not asking you for 6 months. I'm asking you for 72 hours. Can you pick something from your vision and break it down into a goal, and then break that goal down into some tasks and do those tasks 3 days in a row? If you can commit, right, I'm going to commit or write 72 hours down in the comments below. All right, so some pitfalls. I'm going to go through these quickly. Make sure that you're not waiting for the right time, right? Because it never comes. So you have to just do something. And then if you keep waiting, then that leads into procrastination and that snowball. So you have to start small and gain momentum. So you want the right snowball, not the procrastination snowball, but the action snowball. The second thing is don't overthink every step. A lot of us who are brilliant, whether that's traditionally educated or informally trained, because you got your experience and expertise, in other ways outside of going to college. When you've gotten to a certain level, then it's like, okay, I've made it to this level. I want to either stay at this level or I don't want people to think differently about me. So I'm going to make sure that I get everything, right. And, nothing's missing. And part of that can be overthinking. Yes, you want to be on the top of your game, but there are times when it just doesn't call for that. And you have to find yourself overthinking. You have to know the difference between Am I making sure I'm thinking through all the things, or am I overthinking? And then you can get support. That's where a coach, a strategist, or an advisor or mentor comes in that can help you. Another pitfall is believing that you have to do everything yourself, and you don't. You have to be a part of a group, and a group where they actually do some work and brainstorm together. I just got my taste of I was in that one time before, but it just in a different time. And then I was on a call with the mentor that I had, and we did that. And I was like, I'm going to incorporate that when I work more with my clients. And whether it's one-on-one or in a group setting, is because it's one thing to get the information or to learn the skill set, and then it's another way to actually apply it and be in the trenches and get that right now feedback and with the group, so you're not just doing this all on your own. So make sure that you realize that you do not have to do this on alone. Do it alone. Now you may have to invest in support. You may have to invest in a group because the people around you, or you don't have access like that, or you might be in these free groups and they're like falling off. You may have to invest in a higher level of support. But if that's, what's the cost, what's the small price to pay, to have the life that you truly desire. All right, so we talked about that. The last thing, let me skip down to this because I do want to um, answer some questions I saw. It's like, well, how do I stay motivated? Short answer is you have to be connected to your big why. Motivation can be BS. Like, stop looking for motivation all the time. It's good to like ramp it up a little bit and get a little kickstart, but there are going to be days where you just absolutely hate it. You don't want to move, you don't want to do it, but it's connected to your bigger why, your bigger purpose, like that feeling that you did when you did the vision manifesto. What is that feeling? And not having that feeling, what is it going to cost you to not have that feeling? So if it's worth you not having that feeling, then cool. But if you're like, no, I really want that, and that's where I'm aiming towards, then you're going to find that internal strength to move you forward. You can listen to all the videos in the world for that motivation, but motivation wears off between 45 and 90 days anyway. So instead of you looking for that dopamine hit, how about you build up that muscle yourself, build up that why, build up that resilience, and all the things that come with that, so that you have that internal strength to move forward. Because I just remember getting my PhD, like there were just some days like I just don't want to write. I just don't want to read not one more article. I don't want to read one more case study. I don't want to make one more revision to this proposal or my final dissertation, right? But then it was like, what are you really doing this for? And I remember my mom told me to finish no matter what. I was like, I need more degrees. I could go back to work. I didn't need this, right? But I was like, I wanted to be an example for young girls that look like me. And I wanted to make sure my mom was proud because she passed away right before I entered my program. And then I wanted my grandmother to be proud. And I'm the first one in my family, like all of those things. So when you get that, it was like, who cares that you don't want to read? You get your butt up and read. And I'm pretty sure you all have stories too, but you have to find that anchor to move you forward. So if you have any more questions, let me know down below. Like if you're having a challenge of starting or regretting something, I would love to talk to you about that. Some of you may have asked, what if my vision changes over time? You should evolve, but there's something about your goal. Like if there's a dream that's in your belly to accomplish, you don't change that because that's what is placed inside of you, but you may have to change your approach to that. Very different. I realized, like, I used to be like, oh, well, I had this vision or this dream to do something. But then when I kept getting roadblocks, like, oh, well, maybe that means I'm not supposed to do that. That's not what it meant. It meant that I needed to shift how I was approaching it, that think differently or dreaming differently, like I shared with you all before. And lastly, some people say, well, what if someone doesn't believe in my vision? It's not up to them. It's up to you to communicate that and you to be the leader of your vision and get the if other people are necessary, get them in line, right? Or you are the director of that, and it's up to you, and it's your responsibility to communicate and execute that, and you be the leader of your vision and do whatever it takes and do what needs to be done to make it happen. So it's not their responsibility, it's yours. All right. And if you have any more questions about that, again, comment drive down below, or you can message me and I will respond. All right, so thank you so much for listening and learning with me. make sure that you take the 72-hour challenge, something very, very small that you can commit to. This is how you build up the execution muscle. And then comment 72 down below so I know that you are rocking and rolling with us. And then also, if you want to take the next level, comment drive down below, and we can start a conversation that way, whether you want to jump on a call, whether you want to have a question, or if you're interested in that additional resource I was telling you about your life assessment, that kind of see where you are. So there are different ways for you to start taking action, either 72-hour challenge, comment drive down below, or ask me a question directly in the comments so we can get this monologue, turn this monologue into a dialogue on and off the screen. All right. So thank you so much. And remember that dreams are not meant to be lived. Dreams are meant to be lived, not just imagined. So we're taking out the possibilities and turning them into realities. So stop waiting, start doing, and make the remarkable shift from vision to reality. Thank you all so much. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye. I'm sitting this. All right. Cool, cool. Perfect. All right, everyone. All right, bye, Facebook. And then we're going to say bye to YouTube.